Guess who's back? Back again. Sam is back. Tell a friend. Okay, sorry, that was really corny. But as you guys know, Salmonella is back. I thought he was retired, but after a 3-year hiatus, he is back. And today I'm going to be reacting to his video. Let's get started. Oh, it's good to hear that again.
Hey kids. I just woke up from a nap I took in January of 2020, and boy are my arms tired. Let's see what I missed. Queen's dead, war in Ukraine, the Taliban's back. What is... Holy shit.
Honestly, the world that he left behind in 2020 was such a simpler world. It is so crazy that all of this has happened. It's basically because Salmonella was off the internet. I think that's why all this bad stuff happened, especially the pandemic.
Shit. They made a movie called Scoob. Unprecedented global pandemic, Space Jam 2, some popular guy named Brandon. Yep.
I wonder if Scoob is based on Scrappy-Doo, that really crappy Scooby-Doo that they made in the 70s. I've never seen it, nor will I ever see Scoob, but that's just interesting to think about.
That just about covers it. Anyway, we all know about the scientific names of animals, but did you ever wonder what they actually mean? To find out, we must look to taxonomists. They're the guys responsible for the systems of nomenclature we use to classify organisms, and boy are they convoluted. First you got the big 8, domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. I've seen plenty of mnemonic devices for this, but since the D just showed up in the 90s and is still disputed by some scientists, he's usually not included. So allow me to suggest a few. Dizzy kids puke cereal on fairground staff. Dumb kittens pushing cups over feeds growing spite. Donkey Kong's fucking serendipitously. The way this whole thing works differs slightly depending on which kingdom you pick. So today we'll be sticking to the animal one, cause that one's the coolest and I'm in it. So what constitutes each taxon is pretty arbitrary. They basically just serve to act as another set of branches in the tree that taxonomists build. The one exception is species.
Okay, as a poli-sci history person, I know nothing about this field, but it's actually very interesting that this is how they classify all those Latin names that we all know. Frankly, I don't really know any of the Latin names, but I know that they used to be very simplistic. But gradually, over time, they basically started almost to become jokes, where they would just run out of names or stuff. So they would just find like funny attributes, like a fur color or something, or their spotted toes or something, and that's basically what they would name it for the Latin words for that.
Which is generally defined as any group of animals that can have babies with each other that aren't sterile freaks. Mule, liger, zedonk, skunk ape, they can live fulfilling lives.
The skunk ape is a cryptid that's found in the Everglades of Florida, and this is supposedly one of like the greatest Bigfoot photos ever. You can judge whether you think it's fake or not.
But they're all shooting blanks, so they don't count. On the other hand,
skunk ape is shooting blanks, apparently, according to Salmonella. I think my cryptozoologist friends would beg to differ.
And in our innumerable trespasses against God, we can make things like Chidanedanes, which actually work, so dogs are dogs are dogs. Besides,
that cannot be real. Holy shit. Imagine mating a fucking Great Dane with a Chihuahua. That is just ridiculous. I'm sure that they've done this before, but I wonder how that would work. I'd assume you'd just have to get like the egg and the sperm from the Great Dane and the Chihuahua, but maybe I'm completely wrong on that one.
Species, though, it's the Wild West in here. Plenty of times, 8 tiers isn't even enough for scientists, so they just stick new sublevels in between. Legions, cohorts, tribes, series, divisions, and if you want to keep going, you can throw all kinds of prefixes on any of these for even more layers. There's even subspecies, which the more pedantic of you may think to yourselves that creating names for subspecies at all kind of undermines the single somewhat agreed upon definition in the whole tree. To that, my friends taxonomists say, But while that's pretty complex, the actual names themselves are pretty easy to wrap your head around. Though taxonomists may hide behind their fancy Greek and Latin, the Vulgate is no substitute for wit. Now, I've scraped through the scientific names of a load of species, and most of them can be split into a few categories. The simplest ones are the animals that already have names in Greek or Latin. It's a lion, I'm calling it Leo. Done.
Yeah, that's easy enough. Easy enough. They have names for these creatures in Latin because they were brought to the Roman Empire. Therefore, there's going to be names for it. Many of these creatures, they fought in the Roman Colosseums. This would make sense why you could find ancient Latin with them, so that these names make sense on first glance.
Tiger, it's a tigris. Cat, it's a caddis. Easy. Multi-word names can be translated the same way. For the golden eagle, we got Aquila
Yeah, there you go.
chrysaetos. Gold eagle, eagle. They decided to be a show-off
Yeah, that's a little annoying, but whatever. You get the point.
and do eagle in Greek and Latin. Essentially the same though. But if a species is too specific or exotic for a one-to-one translation, that's when you gotta get a little creative. A lot of the time, inspiration comes from just giving the creature the old once-over and pointing out some cool-looking body.
See, as I said before, they would just point out random crap on the body and say that, oh, this is going to be the spotted duck or something, where it has like yellow spots or something like that. I just totally made that up, but you get what I mean. That they'll look at this ostrich's legs and name it for the Latin word for legs or something along those lines.
Part. Generally, the more distinctive an identifying feature it is, the more likely it'll get in the name. For example, Homeboy took one look at this thing and said, yup, red triangle slug. I'm going on break. We call this thing a fucking unicorn, almost like that means one horn or something. Also, some guy deadass looked at an octopus and said, well, all they got is heads and feet. I'm gonna call them headfoot. And now biologists everywhere say...
So this is very off topic, but in George R. R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire series, they actually have what he claims to be unicorns, but I wonder if many people who first saw the rhinoceroses believe that these were the mythical unicorns, and therefore they would write it down and say that Africa had the unicorns there, much like how Skagos has unicorns, but in reality they're just going to be goats with very long tusks. I don't think they're actually going to be unicorns. At least that's what I'd theorize if the Winds of Winter would ever come out.
Cephalopod, unironically. Matter of fact, if it's got feet, chances are that's part of its name somewhere. You got 4 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet, 2 feet, equal feet, both feet, double feet, stomach feet, lip feet, sucker feet, wing feet, big feet, slow feet, or feet, both feet, joint feet, no feet, 10,000 feet, cow's feet, spade feet, cat feet, small feet. If it doesn't look that interesting, another thing to point out is where you found it. This could be a territory like American Bay.
This one makes sense a lot too, like the Ursus Americanus. You could just figure out like what continent, what country that you found it from, and just name it based on that. That seems like a very easy thing to do. This is where you'd get like the Carolina parrot or the, oh my god, my mind's blank about right now, but the Carolina cougar or other things found in the Carolinas. But yeah, you would just name it for the Latin word for Carolina and then the Latin word for parrot. Easy enough.
Bear or Siamese crocodile, or just a habitat like woods macaque or toilet rat. But that's boring. We need to look at the men behind the magic and what drives and motivates them. Now, if there's one thing that the scientific community loves, it's clout. And there's no better way to go down in history than plastering your own name on some shit you found. But not all fields have the same volume of things to scribble the old John Hancock over. On the one end, you got physicists just making up their own slightly different form of ionizing radiation measurement. And even then, only the top dogs got away with it. Now, zoology, any little goober flouncing through the underbrush can say, this one has 13 spots, but the one in the book's only got 11. I will call him Splinkus's ladybird. Alternatively, plenty of biologists have given shout-outs to their contemporaries, both other biologists and those across the academic gamut, from geologists to physicists to explorers and more. Naturally, Darwin...
Like, you have to think about the guys who are naming this stuff. They have to be just total dorks, and if you're a total dork, well, you're probably going to want to shout out some of your favorite authors, some of your favorite, maybe some professors that motivated you, or just like this is their cool way of being remembered, so to speak. There you go, you got all these for Darwin.
Darwin's got a shitload, but even the background characters get immortalized one way or another. Who are Thomson, Grant, Summering, Erlanger, Speke, and Cuvier? I don't know, but they've all got gazelles, so they must be...
Let's fucking go. That'd be so sick if this one was named after Ulysses S. Grant. Look at that gazelle. That looks like a Ulysses S. Grant type of gazelle.
Pretty cool. Of course, other times, the name checks go to people who had fuck all to do with anything except for one taxonomist being a fan of theirs. Plenty of popular celebrities...
I have no fucking clue who that is. I wonder if they have a Latin name for some, like, random, like, ant or something. I bet you they do.
Have species named after them, but since all the big cute stuff was found and branded a while ago, most of these idols are commemorated through repulsive little invertebrates. You got Scaptia, Beyonce. The only similarity I can gather here is queen bee. It looks like a bee, both not
like, why would you name that after Beyonce, though? You could figure out such a better name for it, but I'm sure there's going to be some other ridiculous examples here. I'm actually really curious about this. If y'all want to see a video on me going through some of these crazy names, just let me know.
real bee. There's Anomphilus gregarius, an old stone named after an old stone. In 2007, one Jason Bond, a professor of biology at UC Davis, dubbed this little dude Myrmecia Neil Youngie to honor his favorite musician, which
I
caused
have
my
no
man
idea who
Stephen
that
Colbert
is.
to go on TV and profess his utter indignation at not having a spider named after himself. So naturally, the next year, Bond actually went on the Colbert Report to announce the naming of apostachis Stephen Colbert. So,
So he discovered a spider and Stephen Colbert got it named after him. Nice. If any of you want to do the History Channel guy Beetle, let me know.
that gives any of you epic biologists out there any ideas, I wouldn't be opposed. Please, I would do anything. For the love of God, I'll even take a lichen. The world of
Yeah,
politics
let's be real here. Salmonella will get one way before I do.
is by no means immune to this phenomenon. Obama alone has fucking 9, as do a load of
Wow.
other presidents. Trump's got a moth with funny hair, Bush has a fungus beetle, Reagan's a wasp, Carter's got a darter, and so forth. Even Austria's most famous painter got the honor through this blind cave beetle. Mind you, it was 1933, so
The Anophthalmus hitleri. Wow, that did not age well. That's crazy. At least it looks repulsive. That's the only thing, the good thing about this. But God, imagine having Hitler. You naming your beetle after Hitler. Must be some German scientist weirdo.
you can only blame the guy a tiny bit. Hitler actually wrote him a letter saying, "Oh, thank you, my little
What a letter! I would pay to read that letter.
Mensch," and then went on to do, Hitler things. Fun fact, not only was this beetle stuck with just about the worst name you could have, it's also now facing extinction solely because of its value to Nazi memorabilia collectors. Guess old habit.
Holy shit! Okay, so this random beetle is facing extinction because a bunch of neo Nazis want it in their collection. That is crazy. If anything, like this is the research I missed from him. This is such funny stuff, and I was dying laughing. They named a fucking beetle after Hitler.
Let's die hard.
Continue.
Fictional characters have their fair share of species under their
I feel
belt.
like Huck Finn has a few as well.
On the topic of evil beetles, this one's named after Darth Vader
Vader,
because
okay.
he kind of looks like his helmet, I guess. This was actually named by the same guy who did the Bush one and belongs to the same genus. There's also this
So whoever did the Bush one is probably a pretty funny guy. So I wonder if he did this for multiple beetles, and also I wonder how we could find ourselves our own beetle and name it something. This would be pretty cool if we could name it. Leave what names you'd want to add in the comment section below.
mite genus Darth Vaderum, which is a lot more accurate and frightening. In 2012, a single bone from above the eye socket of a hitherto unidentified theropod dinosaur was being studied, and suddenly, under the light of the full moon, the guy working with the specimen had his neck covered with hair and his lips clench into a pog and his endocrine system fill with soy, and he said, "It's just like the eye of Sauron." And then he started chewing on Funko Pops and sweating cream of meme and snorting G Fuel and shitting D20s everywhere until the prostate stimulation made him.
What?
The dino's genus is now Sauroniops, from Eye of Sauron. This spider.
I have Sauron. Must have been a big Tolkien fan. By the way, the new Rings of Power show sucks. It is so fucking boring. Yeah, I can't. If you guys like it, then good for you. But it is terrible. This one's named after Gryffindor.
It was
Harry
named after
Potter.
Godric Gryffindor because it looks like
Yeah.
the Sorting Hat. SpongeBob has not a sponge, but a fungus. The legendary birds from Pokemon each have their own, you guessed it, beetle. And the list goes.
Yeah, you got our Zapdos and Moltres and Arcuno. So this is Zapdos, Moltres, Arcuno. These were the three legendary Pokemon in the original series, and then they started making a ton of them for basically every generation. So now they're not even special. But these were the original OG. In Pokemon Go, I actually got, I believe, these two. And I'm missing Moltres, and I can just never beat them in a gym because I don't have enough friends who play Pokemon Go.
Goes on. Scientists are nerds. Who knew? Anyway, while this all seems kind of chaotic, there is some method to the madness. One rule is the principle of priority. This states that once somebody publishes their chosen name for a species for the first time, that's the name, and other taxonomists typically can't change it. This has led to plenty of misnomers coined by whoever got their foot in the door first, particularly in the case of the guys doing this stuff before we had the luxury of genetic analysis. Here's one. Red panda? Nah. Shining cat, coined in 1825.
Look at that thing. That looks like a cat. Like, let's be real here. That you'd never guess that that's a panda. It's like the bootleg panda. I love how zoos say that they have a panda when it's really a red panda. It's like such a lie.
To be fair, they're actually about as close to cats
There you
as they
go.
are to actual pandas, so whatever. Here's two. Capsicum chinense. Eaten there? Sure. Native? Only off by around half a globe, where literally
Yeah,
all
peppers are not from China. That's crazy. Someone to think there. What I would presume is that this was founded in like the 1700s, and by that time there's a pretty big exchange between China and South America. That I think it was called like the Black Diamond Exchange or something like that, and that's why there was a prevalence of peppers in that region.
all hot peppers came from. This principle holds true even if someone thinks they've found a new species, only to later discover that it was already named. For example, in 1824, one John Edward Gray documented the plain zebra, calling it Equus burchellii, or Burchell's horse, named after a renowned naturalist of the day. Little did he know, back in 1785, some other douche classified this character as the quagga. The last quagga died in a Dutch prison in 1883, so why do we
No.
care? Well, in the 2000s, scientists decided to scrape some gunk off a dry quagga pelt and study its DNA. And from that, they realized, wait a minute, apparently this guy and zebras could have, made a little plaid in the hay together. So technically, they're one species. And today, they're
Wow, so that subspecies, the quagga, could have just mated with regular zebras, and the line could have been could have just basically prevailed. That's crazy. That just goes to show you how little we know about many of these species, and if how many extinct species could have possibly been saved if it was just for modern science, just discovering little things like that. That's kind of crazy to think about.
They're both called quagga. Sounds kinda asinine, but then again, so does asinus, and that worked out fine. Just to maintain the distinction, the extinct subspecies was renamed quagga quagga, so you know it's the
Quagga,
real
quagga.
quagga. This double naming convention has been done with a lot of subspecies, in fact. Wild wild horse, spotted panther, or my favorite, gorilla. Just like, yeah, so
What? Gorilla. What a stupid name.
gorillas gorilla, but
Wait, did that mean that they fucked up twice then? Because it's called gorilla 3 times?
Never grilled. Fuck you want from me. A closely related rule also states that the names of all taxa have to be unique. So if two people coincidentally name any taxa on the same thing, the older one gets to stay and the new one gets the boot. Like if you saw a genus called echidna, you'd think it was, an echidna, right? Well, no, that'd make too much sense. For a while it was true, from 1797 to 1811. Then it was pointed out that someone else already called a genus of moray eels echidna back in
Wow.
1788. So the real echidna had to be changed to tachyglossus, or quick tongue. Then a decade later, a dude did the same thing for a genus of vipers. Another 22 years passed, people discovered the same thing, and they were renamed to bitis because they...
So that's crazy that it takes so many years to figure this out, just because I guess people don't really give a shit about the Latin, the official names of animals. What's really going to be called is the common definition of it. What we say in urban environment. We're not going to call it. We're gonna call that a rattlesnake. We're not gonna call it a bitis. We're gonna call it a zebra. We're not gonna call it a quagga, or a gorilla. We're just gonna call it a gorilla. So it just goes to show that it takes so long for them to find these mistakes, and it almost seems like petty, almost, to point them out.
Beatus. That one at least made a bit of sense, given that the original echidna from Greek mythology was half lady, half snake, but who cares at this point? Anyway, I've just barely scraped the surface of all the goofy names out there, so feel free to post more down below. That's all I've got for now.
It's good to have him back. It is good to have him back, and I will be doing reaction videos to whenever he posts from now on. So it's excellent that he's back. Okay. Before I go, guys, I just want to say I'm really, really sorry. I've just been back at school, and I'm a double major doing a thesis right now, so I have very little time on my hands. I also have a job to try to make money to pay for school, so getting time for YouTube is a little hard, but as the year goes on, I will continue to keep posting, hopefully once every few weeks. But please like and subscribe if you want more reaction videos, and thank you for your time, guys.